Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another beautiful day in the Adirondacks. It's going to be a little unusually warm here for the next few days, and sunny and dry. So I thought that I would do some exploring and take y'all with me. And we're going to check out some spots that I've photographed in the past. One in particular that I photographed and I lost the footage on. So we're going to redo that. There's a couple other places. I'm hoping to go a little further east in the next few days. So we'll see. I've got a couple places I'd like to check off my visit list. I don't know if I have a bucket list, but I have a visit list. Today we're going to try and get the Crown Point historical site. I shot it before, and then unfortunately it was all part of my external hard drive failure. So bear with me, and hopefully we can get this done, and we'll see where else we can go. It's a beautiful shot of the Lake Champlain Bridge. And one of the tour guides is giving a tour, and what you're looking at to the right is actually the remnants of the French fort. There isn't much left except for some foundations, but there's a lot of information here if you're looking for information. But that is just an absolutely gorgeous shot of the Lake Champlain Bridge, and on the other side of the bridge is Chimney Point, and that is in Vermont. And so they are giving tours today, and the museum is open. So here you have an absolutely incredible view of Lake Champlain. There's even sailboats out. Beautiful, beautiful day. Absolutely gorgeous day. People are enjoying the last of the summer weather here. And so again, that's the Champlain Bridge. We'll bring it around. Now in the distance, I believe the marina that you can make out, I believe that is Port Henry. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that's Port Henry. And some of the beautiful rock formations. That was one of the things that always amazed me as a child when we used to come here, were the rock formations. They're just really, really cool. So we're going to go and we're going to check out the museum, because the museum is actually open today. And we're going to check out the English fort. And there's lots of visitors. This is a Sunday, so there are a lot of visitors here. A lot of people traveling through, decided to stop. It is free. It doesn't matter whether you are from someplace else, out of state. This is a free site. It is run by New York State. It is not a federal site, although it probably could be. There may actually be an admission for the museum, I'm not sure. If there isn't, I didn't bring any money with me. Crown Point Military Focus. The most practical mode of travel and communication through the wilderness separating French Canada and British North America during the 18th century was by water. The Sorel, Richelieu River, Lake Champlain, Wood Creek, and the Hudson River furnished a direct water route from Montreal to Albany, broken by portages around the rapids at Chambly on the Sorel, and between the southern end of Wood Creek and the Hudson at Fort Edward. An alternative route by way of Lake George involved an additional portage around the falls at the outlet of the lake. Crown Point, where Lake Champlain narrows to a quarter-mile in width, was a natural position from which to control traffic along this route. French, British, and American forces recognized this fact, and each in turn made the occupation of Crown Point and control of the waterway primary objectives in military planning. And it is also written in French, which is very convenient and really a nice thing to do, because we are New York nice. And then a look at the lake. There's the some of the mounds, and you can make out one of the chimneys from one of the English barracks. A lot of the foundation stone. And then this is the museum. We'll ask if there's a charge. The hours are 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday. Museum is closed Mondays and Tuesdays. Let's ask and see if I think. Okay. Is there a charge?
It's $5 unless you're camping across the street or a veteran.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Admission charges are $5, and they don't allow filming inside the museum. Darn. But that's okay. There are a lot of places that do. Even Fort Ticonderoga does. So it's not such a big deal. So we're going to go up here and check out. Now, I'm not sure if they changed the flags according to who was occupying what, but this is the British. This is the British barracks and the British fort. So that would be appropriate. So we'll pause here for a minute, and I'll wait until I get to the top of the hill. So we're at the top of the hill, made it up, and now we're going to do a pan looking north along the lake. And that is looking north. That is looking toward Westport, Port Henry, Essex, and along the shoreline on the right, that's Vermont. And if we pan around even more, you're looking at the state campground over there, and it's also a day use area. One of the things to note about the campground over there is that there is a lighthouse that is over there. So coming around from the top of the hill that we just got to the top of, this is the sides of the walls, and they've got them propped up because there are some places where there is damage, and they do repair as needed. It's a combination of restoration and original original work. And we're walking along the back side. And this would be like the south. We're going like southwest here along the back side. And I think we're going in reverse order because we started at the marker was number 12, so I think we're going in reverse order here. And we're going to come up here and we're going to come to the top of this hill. I've done this both in the summer and in the winter. And in the winter, it's pretty cold. And you get an idea of what it must have been like for these soldiers during the winter, because the wind comes off of Lake Champlain. It's pretty brutal, especially in February, especially when all you have are fireplaces, and woolen leggings to keep you warm. Woolen coat. It's hard to stay warm here, and I can't imagine what their temperature control was. Here's a look at the entrance and the offices. There's a large picnic area. It's really cool. Bathrooms. Now we're looking slightly northwest. And yeah, the trees are starting to turn. Hopefully in the next few days I can get some really good looks. Maybe it'll get better. And there's a sign reminding us that the ruins are fragile. Please do not walk or climb on walls or masonry. And that's your first look at the English barracks that remain. There are 2 barracks that are still standing. And then in the distance, you can see the partial wall of one that's still standing. And a cross section of the fortification. And it gives you an idea of how it looked. Parade area, terraplane, rampart, bomb-proof, banquette, parapet, scarp, ditch, revetment, glacis. And that'll give you an idea of where you are. So now we're going to head down here, and we are going to look at, I may take you up onto the top of the thing first, and then we will do the buildings. Again, you can see more of the ruins of the other barrack. Let me take you down this way. And that's a shot along the two remaining barracks. And I will, when we get there, I will show you some of the places where you can see the cracks where they have to constantly do some repair work. One of the things that Benedict Arnold had to do when he got here was he had to start repairing some of the grounds. But the major thing that this area is known for during the Revolutionary War is that all along here from Ticonderoga up through this stretch is where General Arnold got the lumber and had his men built what was the first American Navy. And he put them on Lake Champlain in the hopes to stop the British from coming south. And there was a very famous battle just off of Plattsburgh called the Battle of Valcour, which was a loss, but Arnold proved himself to be quite an adept Navy man as well. And while it was a loss, he did help Washington save New York, gave him enough time to save New York. So we're going to go up here. Up along the top, and as long as you stay off the ruins, the walls, you're okay to walk in most places. You will see where there's trails where people have walked. And if you have a question, ask, is it okay to go such and such? And we're going to go to the top. And all of this is all the grounds of this historic site. You can see where the corner of where this fort, one of the corners where this fort was. If you look up there at the second chimney, you can see where they have it covered, and they are in the process of doing some restoration work. When I was here a month ago with my first one that failed, the guys were doing some work in there. This area is also where Benedict Arnold set off for his invasion of Quebec City in Montreal. This and down to Ticonderoga. This whole stretch down here. Now, about dead center. Maybe not. Maybe a little bit to the right of dead center, you'll see what looks like a mountain that has no trees or very few trees. Those are the tailings from the Mineville, what used to be the Mineville mine that Republic Steel owned for a while. That would mark about where Mineville is. Like I said, I believe that town right there is Port Henry, which is where my adopted family came from. So now we're going to take a look inside some of these barracks. if you can check out, you can see along the cracks, along the walls, you can see some of the fresh mortar that they use to kind of repair a lot of this. And, this is over 250 years old, so like anything else, it needs constant restoration, and in order to keep what we still have. And you can go in some of these. I would say be very careful because the steps can be pretty treacherous. And as a friend of mine used to say about hitting the ground does not give. And this is an idea, this is a look at some of what they are restoring. One of the fireplaces that they are doing, it's pretty much patchwork because they're not doing real full-on restoration work. They're basically just keeping everything in, surviving shape. And again, be very careful going down these steps. It is not for the faint of heart. We'll come down here and we'll walk along. And if you line yourself up along the side, you can see some of the places where it's a little wavy. The walls are kind of undulating in places. And that's what they're keeping their eye on, to make sure that nothing falls. Again, we'll go in this one. And you can see the fireplace. And again, it's the restoration work is very obvious. You can see a lot of cracks. But again, I mean, how would you look if you were 260, 270 years old? This is probably pretty close to almost 300 years old. Unfortunately, people have thought that it was no problem to tag the walls with graffiti. At least it's not paint. And we're going to walk down here. And we won't go in all of them. I want to check out the signs. And you can see it's actually really, really cool. We came here as school trips. We probably did 2 or 3 school trips over the years. And then I came with Mother, and sometimes we would come with one of her friends and their kids. Make it a day, have lunch. Let's go check out this one. This board. Absolutely beautiful day. So what we have here is an explanation of the officers and soldiers barracks. Again, it's in both English and French, which makes it nice. This would be the soldiers' barracks, as they may have appeared prior to the fire in 1773. The officers' barracks. British and American society in the 18th century drew clear distinctions between different classes of people. Officers, military leaders with rank, were drawn from the literate upper classes of society. Sophisticated clothes and personal belongings were symbols of their wealth and authority. The men who enlisted as common soldiers in the army were mostly from the lower economics and social classes. Very, very similar to today. I don't know how much it's changed. And then the soldiers. The ruins of two standing barracks here bear evidence of the differences between officers and common soldiers. The soldiers' barracks have coarse stone chimneys. The officers' barracks had finer fireplaces and chimneys made of brick that was removed and reused elsewhere by later generations. The soldiers' barracks had simple brick floors, whereas the officers' floors were tiled. If you look closely at the entrances, you can still see where wrought iron railings were attached to the officers' barracks. The soldiers had none. Officers slept 1 or 2 to a room, depending on rank. Soldiers slept 12 to 18 to a room, 2 or 3 men in each bunk. And these would have been the soldiers' barracks. So this would have been the officers' barracks. Let's go check out the barracks. These steps aren't quite so hard. And this is another example of the things that the people who are restoring have to keep an eye on. And you can see where this whole wall is caving. And again, it's pretty easy to see the where they have had to restore and where they have not. Very cool. I could not imagine living in along Lake Champlain when it was like this in the winter. Heat would not have been as much of a problem because you don't have as many hot days, and certainly back then they would not have had as many hot days. Another example of where you can tell time has taken a toll is if you look along the wall, you can see where it is out of place. And they have a sawhorse there in front, hoping nobody gets underneath it when it decides to go. We do get earthquakes here in upstate New York. They're not major earthquakes like you would see in California or what is predicted along the Madrid Fault in the middle of the country. But they can go about a 4 on the Richter scale. They can go enough to rattle pictures on the walls. And there is a good shot of things that are probably concerning them. The restoration that may have to take place. And you can see up near the top, they've put rebar in to kind of stabilize it a little bit. I imagine that's something that they are really concerned about at the moment. So this is the plaque on the side of the officers' barracks. 1759 to 1912. This tablet is erected by the Society of Colonial Wars in the state of New York, AD 1912, to commemorate the capture of Fort St. Frederick and the erection of this fortress, AD 1759, by the Brits and Provincial Army commanded by General Sir Geoffrey Amherst. And below has a list of the British regiments and the provincial regiments. And it lists the names of the officers. I may be able to find a photograph of this, because I took a photograph of this. So let's go down here and check out this plaque. And then maybe we'll walk along the area and look at the less kept up ruins. There used to be a plaque. Oh, there it is. And this is the British fort at Crown Point. There is a large fort begun. The foundation is laid, built with timber and earth, and is 25 feet thick. It is said to be built 20 feet high. The inside of the fort contains 4 3/4 acres. And the trench around the fort is about 30 feet wide and is to be 14 feet deep. Beside there are 3 small forts, a building, and I believe we shall be here until the cold weather drives us away. Our men are kept very hard at work every day, not time so much to wash their clothes. From September 1st, 1759, letter by Benjamin Carey, or Crary, a member of the New York militia camped at Crown Point. Very cool. It shows you where each one of the bastions was named for someone. Okay. So we're going to go over here, check out these cool rock formations. And then we're going to go over and check out the remainders of the barracks over here. Cool. I always loved this rock when I was a kid. I just thought it was so cool. The rock that this is built on. These are the remainders of the other barracks. I have to look it up, but I think one was possibly blown up and the other one was possibly a fire, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure as to what took these barracks out. So we're going to walk down this way, walk around, take you back out onto Lake Champlain. can see that there was something caused some pretty big holes to be there. So this is a look. We're actually looking slightly southwest at the fort. Last look at the fort. South of here, about 15 miles, is Fort Ticonderoga. And that is definitely worth a stop if you're going to do some exploring up here. Crown Point, Ticonderoga, and the areas around here are definitely worth checking out. So this is a panorama facing north along Lake Champlain, and again, that is Port Henry, and the hill of tailings would be Mineville, part of the Maria, Port Henry, Mineville area, and Lake Champlain over to the bridge. So we're taking a shot of Lake Champlain from Crown Point, and it's a big boater's paradise. One of the crazy things that makes Lake Champlain somewhat famous is that there are people who believe that there is some sort of mythical water creature living in Lake Champlain, something akin to Ogopogo or Nessie. And one of the quote-unquote hot sighting spots would be right over that way, which is Bulwaga Bay. And if you've seen some of my other videos, Bulwaga Bay has got one of the best beaches on it. Port Henry Beach is one of the best swimming beaches I've found. But I am not a believer in Champ, as he is called, but a lot of people around here do believe. And every year they swear there's sightings of him. To be honest, this lake is very wonky, and there's a lot of sandbars and a lot of errant waves in this lake. And she can be a little treacherous sometimes, Lake Champlain is also known as it's also known as the sixth Great Lake. Even though there's only 5, it is known as the sixth Great Lake, and it will take you up to Canada. This was the major route from Montreal down to Albany. This when there weren't roads. There were natives and early explorers that used this lake as a highway. So this is home for me, actually. This area. Like I said, I grew up about 20 minutes west of here, and this is very familiar territory to me. And the shoreline over there, that's Vermont. That would be the right shoreline. And the left shoreline is New York. And way, way, way far in the distance is Canada. So this is the second part of the Crown Point forts. We're going to go take a walk about the French part of the ruins here, and get a good look and see what's left here. There's not as much left here on the French side as there is of the British, but it's worth a look, and it's a little peek into how they lived. And the French fort lays in the shadow of the Champlain Bridge. And like I said, there's not as much here, but we're gonna go check out some of these boards and some of the ruins. So this board will explain a little bit. And again, it is in English and French. Nice way to celebrate both people, both nations. In 1731, the French erected a small fort at Point à la Chevelure, now Chimney Point, Vermont, which I'll give you a look. That would be that place over there, across the lake. Thereby taking control of territory claimed by Great Britain under the terms of the Treaty of Utrecht, 1713. In 1734, construction of Fort St. Frederick was begun on the western shore of the lake. That would be this side. Completed by 1737, the fort was garrisoned by about 100 officers and men. For the next quarter century, raiding parties originated from this post, such as the one which burned Saratoga 70 miles south of Crown Point in 1745, kept under British frontier settlements in a constant state of alarm. More than a military presence, Fort St. Frederick was an outpost of French culture in the Champlain Valley. Settlers cultivated farms on both shores of the lake, and the population steadily increased under the encouragement from the French government. The fort's chapels served soldier and civilian alike Fort St. Frederick and its surrounding settlements, the first European community in the southern Champlain Valley, were hastily evacuated upon the advance of the British Army in 1759. I'm not sure how I'm going to put this together, but I filmed the English part first, and so you could tell by the way the sun was. So this is the afternoon, and this will give you an idea of looking at the two of how Lake Champlain can change. Lake Champlain is a very complicated lake. Fort St. Frederick. Fort St. Frederick consisted of an outer bastion limestone wall enclosing the citadel, a 4-story, 8-sided tower with walls 12 feet thick at the base. Cannon were mounted on each floor of the citadel, and entry was gained by a drawbridge over a dry ditch. This fort within a fort contained living quarters for officers and men, a bakery, armory, storerooms. Swivel cannon were mounted around the perimeter of the fort's walls. British expeditions led by General William Johnston, 1755, and General James Abercrombie, 1758, attempted to capture Fort St. Frederick without success. In 1759, the French garrison partially demolished the fort before retreating, faced with the impending arrival of an overwhelming force of British and provincial troops under the command of General Geoffrey Amherst. And again, it shows you what, how it was situated and what each room was called. Each bastion was called a different thing. If you look at the bridge, it looks like part of the tour actually takes you onto the bridge. Interesting. Very cool. So this is Lake Champlain with a good look at the Vermont side. Would have been a little bit over 20 years before the Revolutionary War hit this area is when this was an important part. The 1929 Lake Champlain Bridge. When it opened in 1929, the Lake Champlain Bridge became the first American highway bridge to cross 120-mile-long Lake Champlain. As the new gateway between New York's Adirondacks and Vermont's Green Mountains, the bridge established a direct motor route from the Empire State to New England. Look at these guys on this bridge getting a tour. I'm not sure. I think it's probably got something to do with the Crown Point. I think the tours are an extra cost. Not sure. Or it may be a private tour company, which that is always possible as well. Very interesting. And that'll give you an idea of where this sits in comparison to the British fort, which you can see up over the Visitor Center. Very cool. And again, you're looking west, Port Henry, and then you've got Westport is up there along the shore, and then if you go even further up, I think way beyond that sailboat is Essex. Essex is the oldest town in Essex County. Very cool. Or what's left of the fort. And there are numbered stops. I think there is a map you can get. And in the distance you may be able to hear the train. That is a very important, it does passenger and cargo, and goes up and down along Lake Champlain, and it goes from New York City all the way up to Montreal. It is very, very well used section of rail. So let's see what's up here. Okay, let's go. Let's continue. And again, the ruins are fragile. You're not allowed to step on them, sit on them, jump on them, jump over them. Treat them with care and respect. And you can see the walls of some of the old parts of the fort. Again, it's over there. Interesting the way they have the rock. The way the bricks are, or the stone is laid in with the rock formations. I do wish there were more plaques out here, and not just having to rely on a map. That would be helpful. And again, you can see where they have done some preservation work on some of these walls trying not to disturb the natural, what was left, what was built. And just trying to keep it all together without adding to it. I think these are interesting, and I don't know what they are. I might have to go on. I'll try and Google and see what these were, but they're very interesting. They're laid with brick, and they're circular. And there's 4 or 5 of them. It'd be interesting to see what they were for. And again, more of the brick and the stone. They almost look like the ends were used rather than the bricks were laid end out rather than the sides out. Interesting. Maybe they're just small bricks, but just very interesting. These look smaller than some of those. Very interesting. And again, more of the brick. Let's go this way. More of the walls of the fort. There you can see the English barracks with the flag flying. And the parking lot. Be helpful if there were more plaques out here. This looks to be like a well of some sort that's been closed in or filled in. Again, not sure. There's no plaque here, or there's no number to check, like a list on a what it is. It must have been beautiful, but as we stand here right now, it's a little after 2 and the wind is blowing south, and if this is any indication as to how cold it could get here in the winter, it must have been absolutely brutal here in January and February. And I am going to try and put some photos in of of what I took in February when I was here in February. I also took some when they were rebuilding the bridge. So I guess we're going to wrap up this part of the Crown Point tour. Thank you for coming along. It's really, really fun to show people what I grew up seeing all the time as a child. Like I said, I grew up 20 miles west of here. And so this was very familiar. This was territory. We used to do senior trips here. We used to do school trips here. We would come with family and friends. On occasion, we would picnic. So this is all a very familiar site to me. For both biological and adopted families, this is very key to both of those families in my country. So I'm happy I could share this with you. This is home. This is part of the